You say that the Federation was imported quite from England, and you're going and form a carifta with a true West Indian flavor. But since carifta started running, morning, noon and night all are hearing. It's just money speech, them Prime Minister giving. But I say no set of money could form a unity. First of all, your people need their identity like one race, from the same place, that make the same trip, on the same ship. So we must push one common intention, it's for a better life in the region, for we women and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. CARICOM is wasting time, the whole Caribbean gone blind. If we don't know from where we come in, then we can't plan where we go in. That's why some want to be communists, brother, some want to be socialists, and one set a religion to add to the foolishness. Look, a man who don't know his history can't form no unity. How could a man who don't know his roots form his own ideology? Like one race, from the same place, that make the same trip, on the same ship. So we must push one common entire life in the region, for we women and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. The Federation done dead, and Carifta going to bed. But the cult of the Rastafarian spreading through the Caribbean. It have Rastas now in Grenada, it have Rastas now in St. Lucia. But to run Carifta, yes, you getting pressure. If the Rastafari movement spreading and Carifta dying slow, then it's something them Rastas done that them politicians don't know. That is one race from the same place, that make the same trip, on the same ship, for the woman and their children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. You try with a federation, the whole thing end in confusion. CARICOM and then Carifta, but somehow a spelling disaster. Mr. West Indian politician, I mean you went to a big institution, and how come you? I know it's very easy. If you only rap to your people and tell them like me, them is one race, the Caribbean man, from the same place, the Caribbean man, that make the same trip, the Caribbean man, on the same ship, the Caribbean man. So we must push one common intention, it's for a better life in the region, for we women and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. You say that the Federation was imported quite from England, and you're going on for a carifta with a true West Indian flavor. But since carifta started running, morning, noon and night all are hearing. It's just money speech, them Prime Minister giving. But I say no set of money could form a unity. First of all, your people need their identity like one race, from the same place, that make the same trip, on the same ship. So we must push one common intention, it's for a better life in the region, for we women and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. CARICOM is wasting time, the whole Caribbean gone blind. If we don't know from where we come in, then we can't plan where we go in. That's why some want to be communists, rather some want to be socialists, and one set a religion to add to the foolishness. Look, a man who don't know his history can't form no unity. How could a man who don't know his roots form his own ideology like one race, from the same place, that make the same trip, on the same ship? So we must push one common intention, it's for a better life in the region, for we women and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. The Federation done dead, and Carifta going to bed. But the cult of the Rastafarian spreading through the Caribbean. It have Rastas now in Grenada, it have Rastas now in St. Lucia. But to run Carifta, yes, you getting pressure. If the Rastafari movement spreading and Carifta dying slow, then it's something them Rastas on that them politicians don't know. That there's one race from the same place, that make the same trip, on the same ship. So they pushing one common intention, it's for a better life in the region, for the woman and their children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man.
Yes, indeed. Pleasant good night to all and sundry. Yes, this is a special night because I thought it would be befitting. Excuse me. It will be remiss of me. And indeed, of course, as the expectations of the entire national community as well as the region, because I consider him to be a Caribbean man. I'm talking here, of course, about the late Marcio Panday, who was later arrested today. I thought it was important, of course, to dedicate, of course, this program tonight to celebrate his life. To celebrate a man that, of course, was clearly before his time. And indeed, of course, a man for the moment and the time when Trinidad and Tobago really needed someone, of course, for guidance and, of course, and clarity in terms of national objectives and agenda. You see, he took over government just after, about 5 years after, of course, just after And one cannot, of course, dispute the 1990 coup. Because, of course, it was in 1995, of course, he got a stint as a prime minister in this country. Whether of Indian descent is irrelevant. But the fact of the matter is that he took the country not just by storm, and not just by the repository of the aspirations of all of the peoples here from the different strains across the various continents of the globe. Let's go straight to the lines. Blessed, good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor. Blessed, good night. That's a good night. Let's try it again like we lost that one. Let me just see if everything is up and running. Just a minute. Let me just check that. All right, caller, you'll have to call back because apparently that like we have lost that one. But of course, I know that people will be, of course, expressing similar sentiments. And indeed, of course, simultaneous and juxtaposed with those sentiments will be, of course, concerns as to the future of Trinidad and Tobago, whether or not we have the kind of vision and we have the kind of what I consider to be creativity and the kind of leadership skills that is required. Well, of course, as a party which he left us, clearly we are seeing, of course, all the signs that there is a leadership prowess, a leadership power that, of course, it appears that the UNC has been able, of course, to coalesce. But certainly, we still have to question whether or not we can, of course, manage moving forward with leadership that is visionary and that is appropriate for 21st century Trinidad and Tobago. Let's go straight to the lines. Present, good night. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, Lennon. Yes.
Yes.
Lennon,
talk a little louder and probably come a little closer to your phone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now. Go ahead.
Wait, can you hear me clearly? Because yeah, okay, but on my phone, right? Your voice sounds very muffled, and I don't know if the show is being sabotaged because it can easily be done on YouTube because of technology. Because I do read a lot of hacker news. I'm on that site, and I know that YouTube has a lot of hacks, and the government can also infiltrate your website and sabotage your podcast. But can you hear me clearly, or
I hear you clearly. I know that I have a sore throat as well. I have a little problem with the voice as well.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I want to just tell you straight up front, my brother, I love you. I just love listening to you. I love talking to you, and I enjoy your podcast. But also, last night I did fall asleep. But let me jump right into Panday.
Yes.
All right? And I want to be real honest, I didn't like the idea about him. I didn't like the idea about him floating, the Indian people floating his body all over and all of that stuff. But there was a lot of stuff going on today that we need to address. And I think it's important. First of all, I want to say something. Historically, it's a fact, and we need to, because we're talking about building a country. See, and none of you need to tell me because I'm not sure. Generation Indian-born Trinidadian, or was he second generation?
Well, is it possible for him to be first? So it has to be at least second or second or third, but not certainly first. I can assure you of that.
But what has no?
But of course, but that's first because you were 90 years of age.
Okay, let me talk facts now. Yeah, that's true.
So therefore, let's say
he
first.
He was the first generation. Yeah, he was first generation born here. So let me talk facts now. All right, let me talk facts now. Thank you very much, Mike. Facts now, because these are realities that we have to grapple with and realize this is true. Okay, isn't it amazing to live in a freaking country where you are first generation and become prime minister? He's a prime minister, first generation of being born in a country. It's like I go to America, I become the president. That's an amazing thing.
Oh yes,
Meanwhile, people who have lived here for hundreds of years, they make you ready. Am I clear? Am I clear? So what I'm saying is this: we have to acknowledge that Trinidad Africans came here, lived here for 500 years. And yes, the PNM did rule. They did something for 45 years. And what did they do with that gift? What did they do with that gift that his people had built? Not just Trinidad, slave labor built the industrial revolution of the world. Industrial revolution came because of slavery, because of iron, because of selling the chains and ships, and because of trade labor. And we do it after 600 years. In 70 years, Indian man and indentured labor in Trinidad act like they come from 700 years of indentured labor. I think we somewhere. I'm not being an anti-Indian or anti-Afro or anything. I tell you the truth. Our people worked and built this country. And Indian people came and lived under hardship for 70 years now. Slavery in 1845, indentured ships in 1845 and in 1917, from 1970 on. From 1945 to 1960, before oil was becoming and all these companies coming out, Indian African people lived like dogs because the white people who control this country treated everybody like dogs. So 70 years, like 100 years, and a man first generation become prime minister, and we had an Indian prime minister, we had a black woman prime minister. I'll tell you something, yeah. I'm angry because our people were divided by stupidity. And I say that because every time I think of the future, it's not about how can we think, how can we build, how can we create, so we could all have a better quality of life and standard. All you like living in a trend, all you like doing this. Let me tell you, I just want to say something. I see like our people need to unite and we need to raise children the right way. We need to build this country, and we don't need to float bodies around and show them how much we love each other because Mr. Panday did, and Kamala, yes, first Indian woman. Not an African woman, I'm sorry, or a Muslim woman, I'm sorry. You know, all right. We're going to move forward. And I ought to say, Michaela Panday, when she was carrying her father's casket on her shoulder, she was sending a message. She's telling all, you know, I carry my father on my shoulder now, you know. I carry my father's legacy. All you want me to, I go show you who our woman is. But do we really want another legacy like that? We don't need people who had experience being politicians. We need people who have experience working on problems, people helping you, lifting you up. It's not about a show anymore. It's not about doing anything great to show people how good you are. It's about us being kind and acknowledging truths. Like our African brothers and sisters who came from Africa, Trinidadian Africans, they suffered tremendously and they're still suffering. And we've been here, our ancestors come here in the 1917, and they became millionaires. Today we have so many very wealthy people. Yes, and they did give us access. And now we have to unite, because I'll tell you something. Eric Williams exploited our own people, our people who came here, and the PNM is doing the same thing. And I let you know, because you went served in the PNM and you know what the policy is like, and you're playing with us. They don't care about how hard you work, or they just want to play this card game to make money. And for me, it's all about exploitation, and we need to stop it. And we acknowledge that all of us are suffering right now. And we cannot say the Indian people suffer for 7 years or whether they suffered. We didn't suffer for 600 years. We didn't have children raising. We didn't have hundreds of children. A young African boy in the plantation lived 27 years. We had Indian people living to 100 years. So I'm sorry, but Panday had a good life, and now we got to move on. And we know how to follow this country. That was a long contribution. And thank you so much, Lennox, and I appreciate you giving me this time. Yeah, I know you might disagree with what I said, but we've never had a Trinidad African woman. And the truth is, Trinidad Beckles is not fitted for that job. She is unsuited. We have somebody else in line, and they will come up. A young person will come up and rise up. All right, thank you.
Yes, indeed. And that is why I love this program so much, because every single contribution is always nestled in a number of practical, but at the same time intellectually stimulating arguments and advancements, and to a large degree advocacy, because she's correct. While we can think of Panday as a first generation and therefore a monumental task, we also had, of course, first generation politicians of the African stock as well. It wasn't only Panday, but she took us back also to indentureship, and indeed, of course, I have to take you back, of course, to the emancipation of slavery in 1834. Of course, there was an indentureship, apprentice for 4 years. So we're talking about 1888 in essence. But in fact, as far as English-speaking colonial territories are concerned, but the fact is that 1956 came, and 1962, which of course was when we became independent, and there were persons who were especially fitted into that epoch, that period, that era, that had, of course, to take the country from one stage to the next. And then, of course, we had in 76 republicanism, and here is where we are today. The fact of the matter is that there were some things that were overlooked, and that is the advancement of society, the enlightenment of society, the educational advancement, the general, of course, quest by the population to improve the circumstances materially, financially, and of course, educationally or academically, and therefore the quality of life, standard of living, as now, of course, not just a concern, but of course, as to a consideration has to be, where are we placed as far as those persons who in mass have, of course, inherited Trinidad and Tobago, but from the descendancy, whether they are from Africa or from India or from Syria or from, of course, the Caucasian origination. And there is a serious flaw, because one has to consider now whether or not our constitution, I am going to be on the constitutional reform bandwagon, if you want to call it, initiated by, of course, Basio Panday. That will be a singular mission of Lennox Smith, and of course the corridor transformation as we move forward. Because you see, the legal framework cannot lag behind the advancement of the people in general, and the metamorphosis, the various stages of evolution of our democracy. And we have seen, especially with this particular administration and this particular Prime Minister, the highest executive office in Ireland, who has converted the current constitutional arrangement to one of a dictator, one that says, do as I say or nothing. And if you only oppose me, I will use my influence, the office that I hold, to, of course, have elements in those offices, even though they are independent of me, to, of course, bring pressure and, of course, to book your behavior, which I dissent to or condemn or does not feel is in conformity with my standard. Of course, my standard is extremely low, as you know. It is more catering for the subterranean cultural aspects of the area of obscenity, the area, of course, of crime and criminality. And that is how I interpret the present Prime Minister, and relate that to the need for constitutional reform. Our external correspondent is on the line, Ms. Santa Cruz. A pleasant good night. A pleasant good night.
A pleasant good night to you, Lennox. What you at this point in time is that you are so very, your pictures are mostly on audio and we are not getting it clear tonight.
All right, okay.
I'll call back when we are getting it better.
Okay, right. No problem. Thank you. I'll leave it at. All right, so let me go temporarily for a little a break, so to speak, and then of course I will return to, of course, treat with that issue of the picture. These days I don't know if there's a need for another camera or what, but sometimes it goes and sometimes it comes. I'm seeing it all right now. I studied if to interfere with it, if it will get worse or better. But let me just test and see whether or not I will be successful in that regard. We'll be right back. Let me call back.
Caribbean man on the same ship, Caribbean man. So we must push one common intention, is for a better life in the region, for we woman and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man.
I still need something to do with the camera. I'll have to check on that tomorrow, finally, because I really thought that there was something much more technical. I don't know if the cameras itself has to change. There are two cameras here, so I will just have to, of course, make a switch. I didn't do that now, but I'm hoping that the one that is focused on the program now will, of course, not fail tonight, because of course tonight is such an important night. I mean, it is the night where, of course, Basdio Panday was buried, and of course, well, cremated in this case, under, of course, Hindu rites, and therefore there are a number of things that has to be discussed, really. And we as a people, where are we going? And how can we maneuver the various challenges? And as I said, I believe strongly that, of course, a constitutional reform is a matter of imperative. I think it is the singular most important mission for any society. Well, particularly Trinidad and Tobago, having regard, of course, to as I said, what we are seeing unfolding for government and prime minister in this country, a total dictator, a total person who has no regards for the population, and of course no regards for fundamental principles that we must of course now focus and insist upon if we are to of course survive as a society. So of course that is what should be the ultimate decision, and because in his death he was able, of course, to unite us and to have us focus on the kind of arrangements that are necessary in order to really and truly advance Trinidad and Tobago's cause. It cannot be that one group of people can advance in this present circumstance, and then, of course, you have another group that is engaged in elitism and the quest for dominance and political power, but at the same time contributing to the lagging of a critical section of the society. I'm talking about the Africans. It was Dr. Rowley who acknowledged, he claims to be a historian, and he said that in no uncertain terms, as you and I know, the Africans, of course, are left behind. They have, of course, they are at the lowest rung of the socio-economic ladder, in spite of the fact that they are dirt poor, of course, Indians. So that is not the issue. There are poor Africans and poor Indians all around. But those who ought to be making the advances and contributing, of course, to the development of Trinidad and Tobago, so that poverty can be eliminated, so that, or at least addressed significantly, or that the quality of life could be advanced, and the various components that contribute to the quality of life and standard of living can be advanced, can only be done with not just everybody putting their shoulders to the wheel, but more significantly, they must have the capacity to put their shoulders to the wheel for a better Trinidad and Tobago. And that is where I feel we have found out, and where constitutional reform is required to avoid the travesty that is Rowley and the PNM today, and find a way to, of course, equalize the society, to generate a greater degree of transparency, accountability, so that the waste that we are seeing now, and the profligacy by Rowley and they, based on dictatorial tendency and rambunctious and non-consultation and transparency, we need to avoid. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Mr. Smith.
Good night to you. Good night to you.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to pass out condolences to the Panday family. It was a very sad day today for the entire country, I believe.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I really believe that the government should have given a day off today to the public for a day of mourning, but that didn't happen. Anyways, what I really call to say is that I think this would be the perfect timing for the UNC party to consider passing the mantle on to Makila. Because she's young, she's vibrant, and she could bring a lot of things to the party, positive things. Positive things is what we need right now to get the PNM out of office. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, of course, for that contribution. Of course, that is an opinion, and I'm sure that will settle itself out in moving forward, because the late Prime Minister and therefore Basio Panday, Makila must also want what you are suggesting. So it's just a matter to hand over. There must, of course, discussions and, of course, assimilations and positioning, because clearly it can happen like an epiphany. Can it be? So I'm sure that those issues will certainly stand out as the evolutionary process and the sub-evolutionary process of the UNC as a party, having regard to the founders, of course, the demise, and, of course, ultimate, should I say, commission today. Certainly that to be in the post of the parties, should I say, rank and file, and the decision makers within the party, I'm sure. whether she will gravitate, because of course, as you know, she has her own party, but of course, with the consent of the late Mazio Panday father, but of course, we know it would have been in circumstances where they would have preferred differently, because of course, there was of course talk while she was alive of a dynasty, when of course she was a mere infant, to use of course a neophytic phrase, a mere infant, of course, in the politics. I think she has grown amateur. I think some of the statements that she would have made in recent times, particularly on the advice of her father, certainly requires serious consideration. The level of maturity and the level of sobriety with which, of course, these statements were either written and made when she would have had the opportunity to be interviewed, certainly as to where the leadership of the party must go. And of course, the population must be totally on board and abreast. So I share the view that consideration must be given. I share the view that discussions must be engaged. But it is, at this stage, a requirement that both elements, the leadership of the party and the data of Makela, to come together in order to come to some kind of agreement arrangement, because it just happened out of the loose. Let's go to the first line. There's someone on my phone. President, good night. Welcome. We'll take a difficulty, but you'll that so far. President. Yes. Hold on, just pause. I want to hear everything you have to say. Someone is on the line, so let me ask them to hold on. Caller, could you hold on, please? I'll take the call, but I have someone on my private phone. So either you call back or hold on. All right, they seem to want to call back. Go ahead, Mr. Tagriwa. Yes. Yeah. Another caller. Caller, I'm on my phone, so if you can hold on, I will accommodate you after I finish with the phone, all right? So it's up to you, caller. Go ahead.
Yeah. And you watch him at George Chambers,
Mr. Lennox, I just advising you, you're coming in terrible.
What? Terrible, okay.
When Chambers became Prime Minister, and Padmore was talking on the budget, you will get a full rate, Chambers come and I don't think it.
Okay.
Yeah, and the next one which I put it on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rocket test. It's a bad idea, but I don't know. You have to get rocket to do that. If you can't do that, you can't do that to be so bad. And you know you always you learn to be serious.
Yes.
What if you do today, people know political, they have to tell you something. And you never did that. That is our own and as far as I'm concerned. And the other thing about the people, they went. And the people that
yeah, she said that she wasn't, but she made a video. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Right?
From that ilk. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I'm sure like to say Panday in
All right. I tell you what, because I'm not. Yeah. Okay. All right, okay. Yeah. I sense what the caller spoke of. I'll have to, of course, I'll have to pause and return. I have to pause and return because there's something wrong with the audio. Let me just test it again and see if we could correct it. No. No. All right. Yeah, something is definitely wrong. So people, of course, I will return afterwards, but I'll have to, of course, end this session